following is a local resident producers program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Media Services, the City of Oshkosh, or Time Warner Cable.
And Rylance, and on this edition, as we have done in the last few weeks, we are interviewing candidates who are running for the 53rd Assembly District. Coming up in future programs, we'll be talking with the candidates for the 54th Assembly District and also the 18th Senate District as well. So, but on this edition, we're very pleased to be joined by Cecil Streeter. Cecil is Republican. He's one of four Republicans who are seeking the seat, and they will be facing off on a September 9th primary. The winner of that race will face off with Democratic challenger Jeff Mann in November. That general election is November 4th, I believe. Anyway, welcome. Yeah. Thanks very much for being here. We appreciate your taking time out to come and discuss your candidacy with us. We always start out with candidates asking the usual type stuff, and that is, you know, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're getting into this crazy field of politics. So,
well, about myself, I'm from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I got a degree in sociology and political science back in the 60s. And since there weren't too many ads in the paper for social scientists at the time, I decided to get a master's degree in something that could make me a living. So I got a master's in counseling, and I've been a school counselor at Oshkosh West High School for 30 years. And as I was thinking about what I wanted to do after that, this possibility kind of surfaced as something that I could really take everything I've learned in the last 30 years and put to good use.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, one of the notable things about this district is it is huge. It is so spread out all over the place. It's like at times it looks like it takes up half the state, you know?
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating, of course, but it is very spread out. And a lot of it is rural. A lot of it's, you know, farm.
It has all our parts of 3 counties, 3 cities, Waupun, Amro, and Oshkosh, 2 villages, Rosendale and Oakfield, and then 15 townships. And so you have all of those entities of government that you have to meet and interact with and learn their priorities.
Sure. And a lot of citizens to meet as well while you're on the campaign trail. And a lot of them, as I was saying, a lot of your territory is farmland, and you know, so you've got a lot of farmers out there. I think that was one of Carol Owen's secrets to her success and longevity.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I want to use the word success there, but it was certainly her longevity in the assembly. You don't have that advantage. How will you relate to, or how have you been relating to the farmers out in your district?
Well, actually, the first person I told that I was going to do this was Carol Rossler. And when I told her I was planning to run for this district, she says, "Well, Cecil," she says, "that's a very rural district. Can you relate to those people?" And I said, "Well, Carol, it's like this. I have one brother. He lives on 120 acres in the Upper Peninsula. It's wooded. He doesn't have indoor plumbing. And, you know, he hunts, he fishes. He's quite self-sufficient, self-reliant. And that's really kind of the other side of the coin that I am. And I'm very comfortable in a rural setting and talking with rural people."
Okay, good. Well, why don't we get into some of the issues? Dan, start us off.
Yeah. Are there 4 or 5 Republicans running?
Actually, it's 5.
5, okay.
But one is all over the internet as a libertarian, and so, but he did come out as a Republican, and he's the only one I haven't met yet.
Okay, and who is that?
Jacob Burns from Amro.
Okay. I guess I'd like to get a little bit into ideology, and since there are 4 or 5 Republicans, what is important to you as a Republican, or what makes you a Republican in terms of issues? What's important to you?
Well, you know, actually, back in the 60s, I was kind of a John Kennedy guy, and the big quote back then was, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And lately, it seems the Democratic Party has been more interested in trying to figure out ways that the government can do things for the people, rather than people can do things for themselves. And I'm one of those baby boomers that is at a point where we're going to be retiring in droves, and in fact I am retired. And as a retired baby boomer, I think there's a whole lot more to do than just, you know, fish or golf. I think it's time to give back to that best generation that put us where we are, and you know, and be more self-sufficient, supportive, and assist.
Are you comfortable with the word conservative?
I'm very comfortable with the word conservative. I know as a school teacher that a lot of times that the question I've had to ask, or have been asked more than any other, is, you were a teacher for 30 years. You know, how come you're a Republican? It's like, well, I was a high school counselor for 30 years, and as a high school counselor, I taught independence, I taught intrinsic motivation, I taught the kind of things that that really are conservative Republican ideals.
Can you take 2 or 3 words that expand on why you're a conservative? What do you believe as a conservative on public issues that relate?
Well, the first one is government.
Okay.
You know, I think government is something that should be like a guiding force, not a controlling force.
Okay.
I think government should be something that is not the provider of services, all services. Certainly, there are some services that government can do better, but not as many as some people would like. I feel right now that there are movements in the Democratic Party to turn what we have always considered a safety net into more of a hammock. And you know, I'm really concerned that that some of these programs become disincentives. And so I want to make sure that as we develop programs that are safety net type programs, that they have the incentives kept in so that people are motivated to move through them.
What are some of those programs, Cecil, that you were just alluding to?
Well, healthcare. Healthcare is one. You know, another one is like job service, jobs type, career type programs. Jobs and careers are something that are changing every day. You know, it's very unfortunate when we hear that 300 jobs are going to be gone, or 500 jobs are going to be gone, and yet we can see the transition from a business that starts off with 10 people and then goes to 50 people and 150 and 500, and then all of a sudden it gets changed. Leach Company is a prime example of this. It gets to a point where if it's a family business, the family isn't the next generation maybe is a different generation, and so they look for a suitor to maintain the type of production and things that the company does, but then they find out after a while that suitor has other ideas and wants to move production to Canada, and so it goes. And so those things are inevitable. You know, the most important jobs in job development, I don't think are yesterday's jobs or today's jobs, they're tomorrow's jobs. And those are the ones we have to be cognizant of every minute of every day.
Okay. I want to go back to healthcare.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I know that that's
that
one
was
of
an
your big
important
things.
issue.
Well, it is
Spanbauer, too,
and it is a big issue.
We want
Yeah.
to talk about that.
You know, it, like practically every major issue out there, seems to be made into a political issue, a partisan issue, and really it shouldn't be, I don't think, a partisan issue.
Right.
It should be a people issue, you know. It should be about taking care of people within our government in one way or another. And I'm not talking about something that is solely funded by the government, Cecil. I'm talking about the government stepping in to make certain that every single person in our country or in our state has some access to affordable health care. And I think the key there is affordable, because not everybody can afford the option that may be available to them, or the options that may be available to them. So are you opposed to that at all?
Opposed to that?
To some kind of national or state health care program?
Well, nationally run, yes. State run, yes. I think healthcare is one of those areas where government's doesn't have a good track record. The governments of Canada, I grew up on the Canadian border. I'm close to the news up in that area. In Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, they provide health care to a lot of Canadians who cannot get access to the Canadian healthcare system because the government is running it. I was fortunate and took my first cruise this year, and one of the things I did in the Caribbean is I asked the people who had that kind of government-run healthcare how they liked it, and they said they liked it a lot. Everything was free. There was only one problem. They didn't have access, and the doctors didn't like it, and the doctors were leaving in droves, and they couldn't, and they were coming to the United States. And so it's like, it seems that if we want to keep motivated healthcare professionals, if we want to keep motivated doctors, we have to make sure that we have a system that appeals to their motivation to provide the quality healthcare that baby boomers need. And so, I don't think that we really have a health care crisis so much as we have a health care payment crisis. And there is some structuring that we need to do. And I talked to, when I was talking to the Realtors Association, they talked about, as independent contractors, not being able to join an association for their health care because of a barrier with the state insurance administrator, commissioner. And so it's like, I'm not there yet by any means, but it's certainly when I get there, I know exactly who I'm going to ask and what questions I'm going to ask, because if independent contractors can't participate in a healthcare plan that's reasonable and spreads the risk out over a large number of independent contractors, then we have a problem, and that's a Wisconsin problem.
I think the movement in Wisconsin is to make certain that state citizens have the ability to access the same kind of health care that those who are making the laws in Madison have access to. And would you agree with that? That's a good thing?
The quick answer on that is to just take away their health care. Let them provide their own.
Well, okay, but that's not going to happen.
No.
That's not going to happen.
Probably.
So, again, would you be in favor of everyone having access to the same kind of health care or no?
Well, I think that most people do have access on an emergency basis to that health care. The problem is that they don't have access to paying for it. And so...
which, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that does preclude them from going certain places. I mean, you can't, for example, I know of someone who went to Aurora, did not have health insurance, got turned away at the door. Now, that's what they told me. I wasn't there. I didn't see them get turned away, but they ended up going to Mercy where they got care. But if you have a life or death situation going on and you're turned away, those minutes could mean your life.
Could mean your life.
Yeah.
And that is, those are critical issues. And, and those are the kinds of things that we just can't guarantee that every medical facility is going to have what is needed, and so it's really awkward. I know that the Republican Party has not addressed what is a legitimate alternative to Badger Care, and I've talked to Dean Crawford about that, and I've said, Dean, I'm out here on the campaign trail. I'm trying to win a seat. What's the Republican Party party response to this, because it's an issue on top of everyone's mind.
Sure.
On everyone's mind. And his response was, we really don't have one, except that we're not in favor of badger care. I said, well, that's not a response that is helpful to anybody. We have to work on that. And one of the things about me is that once I get involved down there, I won't have any trouble making that a very high priority and finding out how we can do those things that I don't know the answer to this minute.
Cheryl, I want to turn to education. Cecil probably is going to be the only candidate running who has a long career in public education. I think public education is the leading source of spending of the legislature. So I just want to turn to that if I can. One question, you're talking earlier about the Democrats having all these programs. Response to No Child Left Behind, which was more
which is a national problem.
A national problem, yeah.
Right.
I mean, this was sort of federal intervention in local education, which I assume is not something you would support.
Well, it's one of those things that they're trying to do right by a specific population that is in the schools, and that is the special needs population, the EEN we call them, and so there are categorical reimbursements for those things that come from the federal government. And one of the things that went along with it under this Republican administration was the way that testing would be done. They switched from, and we're going to go into some jargon now, but they switched from norm reference testing to criterion reference testing, and it's quite clear by most people who are knowledgeable in this area. And I was responsible for the high school testing. I ran the high school testing at Oshkosh West of all kinds that were done there for a number of years. And it was quite clear that there was one company in the country that was ready to move from norm reference testing to criterion reference testing, and that company, the owners of that company had the next, and I'm trying to find the right word, but it's the next villa in Kennebunkport. Okay, so it's like so that was a political decision, pure and simple. That's
a reference to the Bush family.
That's a reference to the Bush family,
Okay,
and that was put alongside it, and so that part of it was a political decision, pure and simple. And and those of us in education, and yes, I am conservative, yes, I am a Republican, but those of us who also lived some of that No Child Left Behind experience, we know that at one point George Bush said that he would be considered the education president, and at that point I just hung my head. That was not a good day when he said that, because I don't think he'll be remembered that way.
Testing and accountability are jargon words that have come into education. Are we doing too much testing in Wisconsin?
Too much. Well, too much of what kind of testing?
Okay.
Because teachers give tests all the time.
Right.
If they ask a question and they see hands go up, how many hands go up and how quickly they go up, that's a quiz. So it's like, so do we do too much testing?
Standardized testing.
Standardized testing. The problem that we've had in Wisconsin with standardized testing is that in our zeal to get high scores at times, we have had a lower bar. And so those who compare tests from different states have found that our bar is lower than some other states, even though that we are usually number 1 or 2 in the ACT scores.
Yeah. What would you do if you went to Madison to improve public education in Wisconsin? If you had the bill before you and the superintendent of public instruction was in, you've got 30 years of experience. What are some things that they could improve? The funding, what would you do differently that they're doing now?
Differently? Well, I know that to continue to base the state aid formula on spending that was done in 1993, I think the formula is inevitable, and it just needs to. We need to put those kind of restraints out there so that districts know when it's time to go to the voters. But I think using the formula that was determined in 1993 kind of took frugal districts back then and kept made them poorer, and the districts that were spendthrifts and had lots of money and were able to generate lots of tax dollars basically made them richer.
Yeah.
And so
And Oshkosh is in the former category.
Oshkosh was very frugal. It's
Yep.
always been frugal,
Okay.
and and so it's just time to re-look at that distribution. And I have mentors like Todd Gray, for example, who are very intuitive about school finance, and I know that I can call him on a moment's notice, and he can help me understand at any given time with any given bill exactly what that bill will do and where
Would you
it's
be
going.
in favor of changing it to make up for that?
Yeah,
penalty?
and but it's the total dollar pool would probably not change very
Right.
much, but the other thing that has always seemed like an irony to me is that the state wants to fund 60, 65, 70% of the K-12 education, but then they make all of the regulations local control. It's like if I'm the state and I'm spending 70% of the money, I want control.
You bet.
I'm gonna, and so it's like I tell you what, locals, I will cut back down to 49% and let you guys have 51%, and then you can have your local control.
Well, let's talk about money because budgets are probably the single biggest thing that the townships, the villages, and the cities in your district that they're going to be dealing with.
Yeah, exactly.
And what will you do if you're sent to Madison, Cecil, to help, I don't know, get more money back to these municipalities and communities, or to remove the levy freeze or something? Because the only thing that has come about with the levy freeze is communities have seen fees.
Right.
So.
Well, one of my big things, and it's because of Oshkosh, is that I think K-12 education does the worst job of any of the big consumers of state tax dollars of using endowments wisely. For example, there's talk in Oshkosh of building a new elementary school on the north side. In fact, we may even know the name when I walk out this door of a new superintendent and his charge will be a, quote, referendum in February. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that I've been talking about when I get a chance is that I believe that we should have that new school, we should sell naming rights. I believe I'm thinking about $5 million would be just about right to make it the name, and this school board, if any of you guys are listening to me, it's like right now between the time that the referendum comes out and everybody knows how it's going to look, they should figure out a dollar amount and criteria for naming rights. Because to name a school after a dead president when you could name it after an industrialist, let's say, whose family might be willing to kick in $5 million to have a school named after them, we should do that. And the same should be considered for naming rights for the library, the cafetorium, the computer center. Each of those things could have a name on the door for $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. Every one of those dollars then is a savings dollar for the local taxpayer.
Okay. Well, that of course would work well for schools, but what about communities need streets to be reconstructed, and a lot of times state dollars aren't available for that. And you can't just keep taxing and taxing and taxing your citizens.
Well, one of the first things we don't do is we don't raid the transportation fund. Mm-hmm. We don't steal $427 million out of the transportation fund when streets and roads and bridges and our infrastructure in that area is really falling apart. And if we're thinking about some kind of new mass transit through some of the major population centers, we certainly don't just raid that money out. of course we balance our budget, and we start from there. We look for economies in other areas, and then we try to figure out. We set a priority list of what those needs really are, and we try to figure out how to get them done.
Okay. We're down to about 3 minutes here before we start wrapping things up. Tax incentives for creating more jobs, and also closing the tax loopholes that so many companies are using to get out of paying state income taxes, corporate income taxes. What would you do in both those areas?
Well, I think most of our corporate citizens are really good corporate citizens in Wisconsin. But we do have to make sure that we don't set up a system where we are in the top 10 always in corporate income taxes, or in any kind of income tax that's going to be a disincentive and motivate businesses to go elsewhere or to start up elsewhere. We have a lot of good things to offer, and our taxes do buy some very, very good services, but we really have to be very careful that when these national things come out, that we're not out, we're number one in some really bad categories right now, and we're in the top 10 in some really bad categories, and then in terms of like business friendliness, the latest survey I saw said 37th. And so we have to make sure that we set up a system that is competitive with our other states, because right now we're not only competing with other states, but we're competing with other countries. And so we have to do that, and if that means some belt tightening, some restructuring, whatever we have to do. Now that said, there are some corporate, very large corporate entities that maybe play games with holding companies in Nevada and stuff like that. They call it a nexus. They say if you have a nexus in some place, then you pay taxes in other places, and that's a whole area where we have to take a serious look, sit down, thoughtful minds, good accountants have to get together and find a way to solve some of those very large issues.
Okay. You got a last quick question?
Is this the safest Republican Assembly district race in the state of Wisconsin?
It's probably relatively safe, but I got to tell you, Jeff Mann is working really hard.
This is the Democratic candidate.
He's the Democratic candidate. Yeah. So so is any district safe? Probably not.
But this one, if there is a safe one, this is pretty close to it?
It's pretty close.
Pretty close. Okay.
Yeah.
I wish you the best.
Hey, thank you, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Any last thoughts on campaign position statements or anything like that?
Well, as I've told most people, when the five of us are in the room together, it's like our job right now is to tell you what we're all about. Your job between now and September 9th is to figure out who's the best person to send to Madison. And that's really it.
Okay. And you also have a website, and it's streeterforassembly.com.
Yep.
Okay.
And if you Google Cecil Streeter, since there are only 3 of us in the country, and I didn't think it's that special of a name, I'm the one that pops right up. So
Really?
it's like, yep.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks very much for being here.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you,
luck
Cecil.
in
Thank
the
you.
primary. And then we always have the winner of the primary back. And so what we'd like to do is, if you win in September, have you back with Jeff Mann at the same
Yeah,
time.
good.
And let's
Looking
kind of
forward
debate the
to it.
issues. So, all right, thanks very much.
I hope I'm back.
All right, just sit right there. We're going to take a very short break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by a young man who's doing a sweat equity project to help the environment. We'll be right back.
By foot.
Run across a border.
I couldn't practice my religion.
I was put to work in forced labor camps.
If I stay in Cambodia, I would have been dead by now.
If you think differently, then you're an enemy.
If you know how to read and write, you're dead. You speak your mind, you're dead.
The only way to express what I wanted to do was to get out.
I got to the country when I was about 14 years old.
I was 20.
I was 24.
I came here with nothing. No money, no English.
America stood for freedom, it stands for freedom, and that's what all my generation, young generation, wanted to be there.
For the first time, I felt like I have a right to be on this earth.
Here, you can do whatever you want to do.
I love my life here.
I feel at home.
I'm free to do what I want.
Freedom to me means my life.
How you doing?
Hi.
Hi.
Have a nice day.
You too.
Thanks.
If only child abuse were this easy to recognize. If you even suspect abuse, call 1-800-4-A-CHILD. All calls are anonymous and confidential. Trust your instincts.
Poor nutrition today will increase Sarah's chances of anemia, add to her healthcare costs, sick days, even stunt her ability to learn. And the thing is, Sarah's not even born yet. Get proper nutrition before it's too late. Call or visit WIC. WIC provides nutrition information, healthcare referrals, even food. Your child has you, and you have WIC.
Welcome back to the second half of Eye on Oshkosh. We're very happy to be joined now by a young man. I think he's probably one of the youngest guests we've ever had on Eye on Oshkosh. This is Adam Schuelke, and you're 17, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Yeah, you may very well be. I think we maybe had one who was a little bit younger, but I think in the 5 years we've been doing this.
I think that's wonderful. We're having
it
young
is.
people.
It is.
Yeah. Seriously, thank you for coming.
And
I'm
you're
glad
on.
to be here.
You're on because you are involved in a special project right now, and I'm going to let you get into this and tell us all about it. But it is a sweat equity project, and it is in the Sheldon Nature Center, and you're working to remove invasive species. So for some people who don't know, where is the Sheldon Nature Center? Let's start there.
The Sheldon Nature Center is located off of Oakwood Road, right behind Oakwood Elementary School.
Okay.
And Oakwood Elementary School has supported the nature area for quite a while, and I believe it was started in 1991. John Walsh told me that information, and it's been growing and growing and growing as a nice nature reserve ever since. Okay. So, and yeah, these invasive species, the most common one is the common and glossy buckthorn. That's the two types. If you've ever heard of it, it came from Europe in the 1840s as a gift, and it was very popular as an ornamental gift to give to people and everything. It's a hedge, and what it's doing is it's getting down into the understory layer, and it's destroying it and making an impenetrable one.
How tall is the buckthorn?
The buckthorn can grow from 10 to 25 feet tall.
You have a flower on the top?
Not a flower. They have berries, and yeah, they have these purple berries. They start to develop in late summer, okay. And they're fully fruited,
okay.
if you will, by the beginning of the fall, and they're very the birds are very attracted to them. The birds like the taste, but the berries act as pretty much as a laxative to the birds.
Ah. Okay. So this is an X-lax invasive plant.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And
excuse my humor.
Yeah,
I just had to throw that in.
That's fine. That's fine. Perfectly fine.
Okay.
Yeah. The birds they love these berries, and it's not good for the bird system, and when it gets out of the system, it's already fertilized. So when it gets down into the soil and everything, you have more plants, okay. And it can be anywhere. It can grow pretty much anywhere. So
how will you go about eradicating the center, if you will, from these buckthorns?
We will with the small plants, as I just said, the plants just are spreading and spreading. With the smaller ones, the young ones, those will be manually pulled and displaced of. And it's great because a lot of people are, well, I'm trying to get a lot of volunteers to help out. And a lot of people are like, oh, pulling weeds, oh, not the thing. But hey, good exercise. So it's nice reason to get out here.
Let me interrupt you for a second there, Alan. You're looking for volunteers. Do they have to be, you know, approximately your age? Do they have to be school age, or are you looking for anyone of any age?
Anybody who wants to come out here. It can be a 2-year-old kid, barely walk and trying to pull these things. It can be a 90-year-old man.
Okay.
Anybody who's willing to help. I'm trying to help save this nature center, so anybody can enjoy it, and I want everybody to learn about nature.
Okay.
I want to just, can I back up just for, how many acres are we talking about for the Sheldon? How big is it?
It is, well, I'm not, I would say maybe, I don't know my acres, but I would say through the whole thing, maybe 3/4 of a mile walk through the trail system, and I would say maybe a 2-mile block, like a block of 2 square miles.
Okay, yeah, 2 square miles.
Pretend this is an area, just representative. How close are they? I mean, are we talking about the whole area are just right beside each other, or is it certain areas? Or
certain areas. Basically, if I can just do this. All right. This is basically the nature area. I don't know if
he's drawing a rectangle. Is what he's doing.
Rectangle. And the nature area is basically divided kind of like this. There's a small pond over here, and now I'm kind of making it backwards.
You can actually hold that up.
Yeah. There's a small pond right down here, and over here there's a stream that goes through, and over here in this area there's a prairie, and all the buckthorn is right around here, closing in on the prairie.
Taking over, or wanting to take over.
Over the prairie. Okay. And that's what I'm going to try and stop ultimately. We're going to start there to see what we can do. And then there's little bridges over the stream, and it's all over the place, really. But there's certain sections that we would like to start first, and that's the important part, is to do this in sections rather than trying to focus on the whole place.
Is it really dense? I mean, the areas where there is the buckthorn?
It's getting to be the point where the whole nature area is very, very shady, and that affects the native species, and they're not getting the sunlight, and they're dying away, and it's growing fast.
All right. I had interrupted you to ask about the types of volunteers that you were looking for, the ages of the volunteers. You were saying that the smaller plants you could manually pull. What will you do with some of the larger ones then?
The larger ones, they have thick bases and everything. We're trying to get this as a routine weekend project, starting in the beginning of September, and ending in November, and hopefully, I should have started here. The way that we are going to treat the bigger plants is cut the plant at the base, and then treat the stumps with a Garlan mixture. And Garlan is a type of pest control killer.
Gosh, does it work on rabbits and like squirrels?
Maybe. We'll see.
He'll let you know.
Yeah, be sure and do that.
You can go to your house if it works.
Well, there's so many people with rabbit problems this year. I mean, the rabbits are just all over the place.
All over the place.
So how did you actually get involved in this project? Did this start as like a school project, or did you just live in the area and used it and noticed that there was a problem? Or tell us how you came to be involved.
Yeah, it's not a school project. Actually, I just decided to do this. I was taking a stroll with my girlfriend, and I wanted to show it off to her and everything, because I hadn't gone there for about a year. And I thought, you know, hey, I'd show her all the plants, show her all the flowers, and show her everything. And the buckthorn was everywhere.
Now, how did you? I mean,
I was just going to say, I didn't know it was.
My God, there's buckthorn. I mean, are you?
I've been out there, and I don't know.
You must have had some.
Before, when I was in 7th or 8th grade, I took, there was a college school program at the Sheldon Nature area to remove the invasive species, and they were removing thistle and, well, mainly thistle and buckthorn in the area. And I learned about buckthorn, and I've always known what it is ever since, and we pulled a lot of it, and we got rid of a lot of it, but not enough, apparently.
Are there other invasive species out there besides buckthorn?
Yes, there's, and yesterday, August 6th, that is, I went to the Sheldon Nature Area Committee meeting, and we talked about this. Buckthorn is by far the major problem in the Sheldon Nature Area as invasive species go, but there are some thistle over by the baseball field that just outside of the nature area, and there's a certain type of water plant that's in the pond too, and that's invasive also.
Okay, and I just want to get a plug in here for your project, where if somebody wants to find out more information about this, they go to a site called dosomething.org.
Yes,
is that correct?
Dosomething.org.
Dosomething.org, and then when you're there, it'll have a search area, and you just type in there Sheldon Nature Center, Sheldon Nature Preserve, whatever, but just say Sheldon Nature something or other, and you might even want to put in Oshkosh. That's up to you, and it'll come up to this project
right away,
and it gives you a lot of information on what you're doing and what you're looking for in the way of volunteers. You're looking or hoping to have something like 100 people involved in this.
100 volunteers, correct.
How many do you have so far?
So far, we have we do have 62 members on my Facebook group.
Okay.
I started it last week Wednesday, and it's grown to 62 people, and they're all generally my age, because that's who I associate with on Facebook. A lot of them are college students, and they're definitely willing to help out. I know that for sure. I'm just not sure how they're going to be able to help out with the school year and everything.
Sure.
But so that number might decrease a little bit. But as far as people outside of the Facebook, we've been talking all over the place. I'm positive that people in our community in the town of Algoma are definitely going to help. My mom, Tina Schuelke, she's been talking to people at her work, and same with my father, Jim Schuelke. He's been spreading the word, and everybody's getting it all out, and we're going to make an impact, that's for sure.
Well, your mom hit me up. That's how you're sitting here right now, is she happened to approach me about a week or so ago, and started telling me about the project, and asked if I'd be interested in having you on. And I told her immediately, absolutely. So, be sure and thank her for, bringing it to my and ultimately Dan's attention and to everyone's attention. Now, say somebody wants to volunteer. Do they need to supply their own, spade and hoe and, shovel, or what do they need to do, if anything?
Just come to the planned dates. We're tentatively planning the very first Saturday of September, and that, I believe, is the 6th.
It is 6th of September.
6th of September. That's tentative. It may change, but that's about the time that everything will be all set in stone, grant-wise and T-shirt design-wise and everything-wise. They just need to come and attend. I'm trying to contact a educational speaker from IPAW, that's Invasive Plant Association of Wisconsin. IPAW kind of reminds me of Apple products.
It does.
But they have educational speakers and presenters in the area, and I'm probably going to do it tomorrow and contact them to see if they can talk about buckthorn and how to remove it and inform everybody how to do it. And then each time we would meet, each time following the very first meet, we would just give a general educational spiel about what we're doing and everything, and tell them what's going on, how to remove it, and yeah.
Well, I would think too that there's a certain amount of safety that has to go into this, because you're dealing with garden tools for one thing, and some people aren't the handiest. But beyond that, you're dealing with herbicides and other types of chemicals here to to try and kill some of this stuff. So do you give people a short lesson in safety before they begin, or how does that work?
What we're going to try to do is, what we're going to do, not try to do, long clothing, long sleeves, long pants. The buckthorns, they actually do have these, they're not thorns like on a rose bush, but they're like spikes.
They do penetrate.
They do penetrate, and don't want anybody to get hurt. And safety glasses would be a great idea, and we might get a donation for those from the Bemis company.
Gloves help, but sometimes weeds are harder to pull.
Yes, they are hard to pull, and the bark really easily comes off too. That's what we were.
So you pull it up
doing.
and you got that, but it's still there.
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah. So we use the wrap around your hand method and do that. The gloves, yes, gloves definitely, definitely. Especially with the spikes. Special care when handling the herbicides or herbicides.
Are you going to paint it on? How are you going to?
What we're going to do, as I said, we're going to snip it.
Right, I understand that.
And then, woohoo! I love using props.
That was specially there for you today.
I know.
Yeah.
It's thank you both so much.
You're welcome.
Our pleasure.
So snip, and with the Garland treatment, we're just going to douse it on with like a sponge or something. That way, instead of like spraying it all over the area.
No, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I assume you're going to have gloves and, if you're
gloves, definitely. We're going to, I talked to the former Town of Algoma fire chief yesterday, and I forget his name, and I feel really bad right now because of that.
It's all right.
But he was talking about how we're going to need a professional to come in and do the herbicide, and we're definitely going to get somebody to do that, either from the DNR or from IPAW.
You're not going to have everyone there, in other words, doing this to each of them.
No.
I understand.
What kind of permission did you have to get, Alan, to be able to do this? Because, I mean, it is a community-type preserve, if you will, and did you have to contact the Town of Algoma? Did you have to contact, the school that this is somewhat associated with, or what did you have to do?
Yes, oh boy, now I'm getting my timeline all screwed up.
That's okay. Just give us the basics.
I talked to the Town of Algoma Parks Committee last Wednesday, as in not yesterday. I can't even remember the date.
That's okay.
I proposed the idea of this project to them, and they all supported it. And they did have a lot of questions and a lot of concern about safety and about how I'm going to go about doing this. And ultimately, everybody supported it, and John Walsh told me to come to the next snack meeting, and that's Sheldon Nature Area Committee. So I love these acronyms, by the way. Everything is just working out. Snack and iPod, like, wow, it sounds like a great time.
You're going to need a dictionary when this project is over. Put all of those
They
together.
They do.
And we'll add X-Lax, too.
Yeah, X-Lax.
I have just one.
Sure, go ahead.
I don't know, I assume you wrote this, and I just love your writing. You know, and this was from Help Me Save Sheldon Nature Center?
Yeah, that's the group that I made on Facebook.
You start one paragraph, you say, however, there is trouble in these woods now.
Yeah.
The plants are destroying animal homes and killing all of the other plants. And then you say further on, so I, Adam Schuelke, am asking you all to help me get rid of these invasive species for once and for all and keep Sheldon Nature Area as a great place forever. I just think that's marvelous writing. I compliment you on that.
It
Well,
is.
thank you.
Yeah.
So, how did you come to be so concerned with and interested in, different types of plant species, invasive species, in nature as a whole? Is this something that you just developed on your own, or is this something that was instilled in you by your folks?
Probably, grew up in the Northwoods. So, Rhinelander, Wisconsin, go Hodags. Well, I can't fully support that because I do go to West. So.
Okay.
We'll forgive you for that.
Yeah. But yes, grew up in the Northwoods, big into nature all the time. Just love to take walks around up there. Everything up there is so beautiful, and we took yearly trips up to the UP and Superior to see the waterfalls and everything up there. It's so great, and not everybody gets the chance to see nature in its beauty, and I figure this is a pretty nice way to help an organization do so. And yeah, this is what I'm going to do.
Is this a career thing for you? I mean, if we brought you back when you were 20, not 17, and you were in college, do we see a budding botanist here, or what would you like to do?
Perhaps. Actually, I'm very, very much into music.
Oh, really?
I play the clarinet in the Oshkosh Youth Symphony Orchestra and in the wind ensemble at Oshkosh West High School. And I'm so into that, and I know I need music in my life, but I also need nature in my life, and I know that's a fact too, so it's probably one of those two for sure.
I want to talk a little bit more about the eradication of this buckthorn problem here. Now, okay, so you'll get rid of these. Now, once you get rid of them in the current location that they're in, do they ever come back to that location, or do they pop up then in a different location?
Good question. As I said before, they have an understory layer, the root system. It's all over the place. If you can imagine, like a big, huge buckthorn sewer.
Okay, we've got that visual now.
Got it.
Maybe it's not as nasty and smelly, but it's a big problem, and I suppose you could relate it to trying to get rid of the smell in a sewer system. Febreze is not going to work, so we need to one, educate the people, especially around the Sheldon Nature Area and that whole section of town. Really, there's a lot of buckthorn all over the place. We need to educate the people, because some people, as I said, it grows up to 25 feet tall. oh, well, that's a nice barrier from my neighbors and thus creates privacy. But that's not the case because it spreads all over the place. And to get rid of it, it's not going to be 2.5 months. It's going to be, it's going to take a couple of years.
So I'm assuming that you're probably going off to college at some point.
Yep.
Who will someone just, will this project just die when you leave?
I hope not.
Or, will you sort of groom someone to hopefully take over, or what's going to happen?
Yes, I do have a younger brother, Nate, and I'm sure once I talked him into it, because right now he's a little iffy about it.
How old is Nate?
He will be a sophomore this coming year.
Okay.
And I'm positive actually that he will help out and support it and then pass it on to somebody else.
Okay, all right. And for folks who don't know where this is, I know we talked a little bit about it at the opening, but tell us exactly how someone would get there. If you're coming from Oshkosh, where would they go to get here?
Easiest route would be to take Oshkosh Avenue West, and that turns into Highway 21. Take a right onto Oakwood Road, and then, right onto Oakwood Road, and there's an intersection right away that's Oakwood Road and Amra Road, and you'll see Oakwood Elementary School right in front of you. And just go into the parking lot and go into the back, and you'll see the playground, and it's just about maybe 50 yards away from the playground. Okay. So,
and you're trying to do this every weekend. What day? Is it on a Saturday, a Sunday?
On Saturdays.
Okay.
I'm trying to do this every week, as I said. On Saturdays, starting in the beginning of September, and not everybody's going to be able to go to every meeting, of course.
Sure.
But if we get enough volunteers, we'll definitely have a good outcome every week.
What time on Saturdays?
I'm not specifically sure. I would say in the morning. Okay. Maybe 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock till noon, something like that.
So around 8-ish.
Yep.
All right. Starting on the first Saturday in September at the Sheldon Nature Center, out Highway 21, right on Oakwood Road.
Right on Oakwood Road, and it's right there.
Okay. Also, if they want more information, dosomething.org. So, all right. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Alan.
You are a wonderful young man and a good, articulate speaker.
Yes.
So
We're
thank
proud
you
to
very
have
much.
you on the show.
Absolutely.
I'm glad to be here.
Good luck with the project.
Yeah.
And thanks to Dan, thanks to the crew, and of course, thanks to you. We'll see you next time. Until then, take good care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.